This Southside Oklahoma City home was the site of a tense police standoff today. Police sat outside 7 hours trying to lure 27-year-old Sharon Boyd outdoors. Boyd allegedly shot at a police officer but missed him. However, Boyd's sister-in-law,
There's a head at that window right at the door. See that head at the
This Southside Oklahoma City home was the site of a tense police standoff today. Police sat outside 7 hours trying to lure 27-year-old Sharon Boyd outdoors. Boyd allegedly shot at a police officer but missed him. However, Boyd's sister-in-law, Winona Boyd, was shot in the arm with a handgun. The bullet went through her arm and into her upper back. Winona had allegedly been in an argument when she was shot by Sharon. The woman was taken to the hospital where she was treated and released. Moments later, Sharon's brother Chubby Boyd came out of the house.
All right, down, stay there. Hey, this is good. Down. That's the only gun? Hey!
He lay behind that car for about an hour before a police SWAT team came and swooped him off the ground in a daring escape attempt. Chubby then told of what happened inside the house before he made his escape.
So, first thing come to mind is I grabbed her hand with the gun, and it went up in the air, and we was tussling over the gun. I threw her down on the floor, and she was biting on me and trying to bite my hand, you know, so I could let the gun loose. So I bit her hand and somehow got the gun away. She fired. It fired. And I got the gun away, and I ran for the door and ran out the door. By the time I got out the door, everybody, you know, freeze.
Then started the talks between Sharon and police by phone, officials doing all they could to convince Sharon to come out before someone else was hurt. The concern was increased when she would not talk on the phone anymore. We were especially worried about what, if anything, had happened to her 2-year-old son, Sammy. And then came the moment we were all waiting for. There was a great sigh of relief to see Sharon and her son being escorted out of the house by SWAT team members. The whole thing was done without firing one shot, and Police Chief Tom Higgy was on hand to wrap up the ordeal.
Chief, how'd it go?
It went very well, thank you. The woman and young son is in fine shape, and we're taking them downtown, and we have them out of the area. There was no...
The Oklahoma City Police Department is adding some new additions to the force. They're strong, they're fast, they're versatile, they're just a new breed altogether. In fact, they're horses. Yes, horses, because there are a number of advantages to mounting up to patrol as opposed to riding around on a motorcycle or in a car. 1920 was the last year horse patrols were used on a full-time basis. Major Bob Wilder told us the horse riders are more visible and are not restricted to city streets. But will you have to watch where you put your feet when the horses hit the streets?
Well, we would hope that it doesn't pose as big a problem as it did in cowboy days, but in the Old West, we're of course talking not about large numbers of horses, but a very limited number of horses as it relates to droppings that they might leave in dealing with the various horse associations and officers internally within the department that train and utilize horses all the time, that part of that can be controlled much like in the training of dogs and in teaching them, and of course knowing a little bit about the animal as to when and where he needs to have him to take care of some of these problems.
This is the area the horseback patrols will first start to patrol, near the stockyards, and eventually move into the downtown area. Major Wilder says there are more than enough volunteers to get the program started in late summer or early fall. But as for me, this is the only horse I feel safe riding. Ed Stewart, Action 4 in South Oklahoma City.
This old aircraft trained many a fighter pilot back in World War II. It still flies today. Dick Millen loves this old plane, knows its history by heart. The equipment feels so familiar to the pilot's touch. It's like shaking hands with an old friend.
It's a very rugged aircraft. It is still used by many air forces throughout the world today as still their primary training aircraft. Some of the surfaces are fabric. So, strangely enough, hogs and goats love the taste of this fabric and will actually gnaw on them. So we do check them very closely.
The aircraft's day is almost gone, preserved by a few who still want to remember. Sue Lauer, Action 4.
The Canterbury Arts Festival is in its 13th year. The festival was started by Reverend Dan Edwards in 1969 with about 30 artists. They displayed their work in St. Mary's Episcopal Church grounds. By the third year so many artists participated, it had to be moved to Stevenson Park. Today, the work of 150 artists almost fill the park grounds. The paintings, photography, and pottery, all the creations of professionals and serious amateurs. Some of the proceeds from their sale go to the Edmond Association of Retarded Citizens. If you were unlucky enough to miss today's display, you'll have one more chance tomorrow afternoon until 8 o'clock. Ted Brown, Action 4 in Edmond.
You'd think for $25,000 they could give you a bigger window, but they tell me the ventilation system is so good on this car that you don't need one. This car is the product of John Zachary DeLorean. He's a former General Motors vice president, but he left that company because he wanted to build his car his way. And so with the help of the British government and $125 million, he started his own assembly line in Northern Ireland, and this is the product.
The DeLorean sports car comes in any color you want, as long as it's stainless steel. The car has been in production a year, but the first Oklahoma City copy has gone to Gene Williams. He says he's already sold about 13 of them and expects to sell about 50 a year at $25,000 apiece.
The brushed stainless steel seems to be a real attraction to people.
That seems unusual, doesn't it? I mean, most people want a variety of colors.
The choice is brushed stainless steel in this one, but it's so elegant in its appearance and easily kept that I think it's going to be a real hit.
And if this model isn't elegant enough, there is a 24-karat gold-plated version. It sells for $80,000. Ted Brown, Action 4 from the old Prairie Field.
If you'd known you were going to get into this kind of a court battle, would you have run?
Well, I don't know. I wonder sometimes. It's hard to say. Of course, after I got started and all of these tribulations came up, there wasn't anything to do but keep on. But if I had it to do over, I don't know whether I'd do it or not.
Fly heading 260. Expect 17,000, 10 minutes after departure. Turn right heading 185.
Air traffic controllers are responsible for making sure the friendly skies stay safe for air travelers. It's their job to control flights at most of the country's major airports. However, those flights at airports like Will Rogers will slow down or stop if controllers strike next Monday. Negotiations broke down today between the government and the Traffic Controllers Union. The union is asking for higher wages and shorter hours, but Washington refuses to budge. The strike will come at a bad time for vacationers. Herb Sellers, who heads up metro area controllers, doesn't have much advice for flying tourists.
The only suggestion I would have is call the airlines. It's going to be on a day-by-day basis as to what they have of what the FAA is doing. And there is no firm answer. I'd say just keep close contact with the airlines.
There is a contingency plan to keep some planes flying should controllers strike, with military and emergency flights receiving priority. So vacationers will have to wait and see if they'll be spending more time in the airport than on the airplane. But the impending strike is not the only concern at Will Rogers Airport. For more on that, here's Scott Wallace.
Lundy's Propane Company has been serving the Oklahoma City area 25 years. Up until a few years ago, most of the propane sold by this company was used for home heating. But Jay Lundy says this started changing when the price of gasoline began to skyrocket.
People's looking for something else as an alternate fuel, anything that they don't cost them a lot of money. Well, propane is it's a clean fuel. Your engine lasts longer. You can cut your oil filter changes in half.
The availability of propane used to be a problem, but Lundy says that's not a problem anymore. He says it can be bought almost anywhere. And as far as converting a pickup to propane, it costs about $850.
Jay, is this a complicated process? A lot of people think it's a complicated process, Ben, but actually it's not. This type system here can be installed on a vehicle in a half a day's time with power and air. Ford, Chevrolet, Dodge, or any type pickup in this caliber can be installed in a half a day's time where there's no modifications that we have to make other than just what we, normally do to install one.
Lundy points out that the price of propane has always been about half the price of gasoline. And that's just one of the reasons, he says, propane is going to be the fuel of the future. Ben McCain, Action 4. When the Oak Ridge Boys walked on stage at the Lloyd Noble Center in Norman, you could tell they were ready to put on a show. And the crowd of about 9,000 was ready for them too. The Oak Ridge Boys are considered one of the hottest acts in the music business today. Almost all of their records go to the top, and they perform for huge crowds almost everywhere they go. It hasn't always been this way for the Oaks. 6 years ago, they were making a switch from gospel music to country. It was a low time in their career. They had gone from making a lot of money every year in gospel to barely being able to support themselves in country. A lot of people are still curious about the switch.
We just felt like we needed to move onward. Gospel music was kind of limiting to us. We always enjoyed singing gospel music. We still do. We still sing it on our show. But as far as making our living singing, quote, Southern-style gospel quartet music as we were doing it, we felt like we'd come to a point in our career where we just had to expand, move on, and take our music to a higher plane.
In 1977, things started happening. They recorded a song called Y'all Come Back Saloon. Since then, the Oaks have found a home on the country music charts. I asked lead singer Dwayne Allen why he feels the group is so successful now.
Probably the fact that we love what we're doing, we love each other, and we have stuck together. We've stuck together with when it was good at one time, then when it got thin, and now that it's good again. We've not really changed. We've always enjoyed what we've done.
The Oak Ridge boys stay extremely busy playing all across the country, but they do take time to speak out against child abuse. In fact, for the past 3 years, they've held a benefit concert to raise money that goes toward child abuse prevention. To date, the Oaks have tasted success in gospel, country, and now in pop music. Considering all the time and hard work they've put in, they deserve it. Ben McCain, Action 4 at the Lloyd Noble Center in Norman.
A viewer writes in and asks, if I file for a divorce, can I require my husband to move out of our house until the divorce case is completed? Well, you may ask the court to enter such an order. However, that is within the sole discretion of the judge to whom your case has been assigned. When a petition is filed in an action for divorce, the court may make and enforce orders pertaining to a number of things. They include the handling of marital property, custody and support of the children, visitation with the children, the support of the children and spouse during the pendency of the action, temporary fees and costs, how the parties are to act toward one another, and in answer to your question, who is to have the use of the residence. Since the court is hesitant to disrupt the lives of children, and the wife is generally given custody of the children, especially when they're small, often she is awarded the use of the house pending the final decree. For Action 4, this is Ray Vaughn with Legal Briefs.
I'm not very happy that they have stuck in a provision which I vetoed and which they could not override. So instead of overriding the veto, they've stuck it in this bill. I'm not very happy about it, or if you want to use that expression, it's not what I would prefer. And I just have to look at the bill to see if, what does one offset on the other. And then I'll make my decision.
It's worse for them. They can't bathe, they can't use the commode, they can't cook, they can't even brush their teeth. And it is bad when it comes to the elderly people. They must have water. They can live with food, little out of food for a few days, but not water.
A viewer would like to know, how can I copyright some paintings that I've done? Copyright protection is available for original work in any tangible medium of expression that can be reproduced or otherwise communicated either directly or with the aid of a machine or a device. For example, written words, paintings or pictures, or recordings of spoken words or music. To register your copyright, you should make an application to the United States Copyright Office in Washington, D.C., and pay the filing fee within 3 months after the work has been finished. Further, on items that can be seen, you should place the appropriate copyright notice on the actual work. Now, this notice includes 3 things: the copyright symbol, comprised of a letter C in a circle, or the word copyright or its abbreviation, the year the work was created, and the name of the owner of the copyright. This notice includes 3 things: the copyright symbol, comprised of the letter C in a circle, or the word copyright or its abbreviation. Secondly, the year the work was created. And third, the name of the owner of the copyright. That's why at the end of this newscast, if you look closely, you'll see a symbol, something like this. For Action 4, this is Ray Vaughn with Legal Briefs.
The jury reached their decision after deliberating only an hour and 25 minutes. As he has throughout the trial, Moore sat showing no visible emotion as Judge Jennings read the verdict. Guilty of 1 count of burglary, guilty of 1 count of rape. Defense attorney Frank McCarthy looked at Moore and shook his head. Moore's wife was also in the courtroom. She sat with her fingers crossed. Her face remained expressionless. The state rested its case this morning without presenting new evidence. Defense attorney McCarthy did not introduce any witnesses during the trial. Judge Jennings instructed the jury on 14 points this morning, and then both sides made their final arguments. 3 times McCarthy moved for a mistrial. Each request was denied. After the verdict was read, Moore was led from the courtroom. The jury would recess and then return to deliberate his sentence. James Alvin Moore has now been found guilty of 2 felony charges 7 months following his arrest.
Well, you know, Marianne, that'd be great. But we don't have any more. She answered a bunch of calls. And so what I also said, right now, the problem I was having, and I said something about OPEA, and I said, you know, that's really a good...
They're hoping that he will sign the pay bill by Tuesday, and once that's signed, I think the majority of the problems that have affected state employees for years will at least be alleviated momentarily. Maybe a whole new crop of problems will come up next year. But right now, the biggest problem is the governor signing the pay bill, and we're very optimistic that he is going to sign it.
B camera only, marker.
And action.
During jailbreak from McAllister Prison yesterday ended this afternoon on a Bixby Highway in a shootout, leaving Mark Jennings, the escapee, dead from police gunfire. The convicted drug dealer killed a trustee during his escape and wounded another Tulsa man before kidnapping 2 local teenagers, Tex and Mason McCormick, and demanding to be driven to the state line in their pickup.
It may sound a little strange hearing Action 4's Ron Thulin reading news instead of sports, but he's convincing. So convincing, in fact, the powers that be at Disney Pictures selected the sportscaster to play the role of a news anchorman in an upcoming movie.
Both boys were not injured and were able to talk to our Live Eye reporters only minutes later.
And that's a cut. And we're done.
Nice.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you. We got 2 ways to go.
There you go.
Thulin spent about 10 minutes before the Disney camera. He's expected to have a 30-second part in the movie called Tex. The filming of the Disney motion picture was just completed. The last few scenes were filmed here at this Tulsa hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of going to a TV studio to film Thulin's role, movie makers designed a makeshift news set in a vacant hospital room. It was just a room down from where they were filming another scene. There's an unbelievable amount of work that goes on behind the scenes. Camera angles have to be checked and double-checked. Everything in the scene has to be in order. This is extremely time-consuming, and a lot of the actors, like Bill McKinney, use the time to study their lines. McKinney is a familiar face to moviegoers. He's been in 6 Clint Eastwood movies. He's one of the main characters in this film, along with the young man they're calling the new teen idol. His name is Matt Dillon. No, he's never appeared on Gunsmoke. Oklahoma's Academy Award-winning actor Ben Johnson is also in the movie. A lot of people have asked the question, why did Disney film this movie in the Tulsa area? Director Tim Hunter has the answer.
Susie Hinton, the writer of the book, is a native Tulsan, and so because it's a realistic book and I wanted to make it a realistic movie, as did the Disney studio, we really never thought about shooting it anyplace else.
We're rolling!
Filming Tex took almost 2 months. It's expected to open at theaters across the country next April. Several Oklahomans were used as extras in the movie. They said it was an experience they'll always remember. Action 4's Ron Thulin agreed.
It's a little more hectic, Ben, than I thought it'd be. You know, you're a lot of waiting around, as you saw. We sit around a lot, and they'd call you, and then they'd wait, and you'd call, and you get wait. And it was fun, though, just a little bit more hectic than I thought it'd be.
Ron, what's the possibility of a career change?
No, Bob, I'm going to stay a television sportscaster on weekends until I die, because I got such a great boss.
Ben McCain, Action 4, in Tulsa.
Investigators were suspicious of the nature of the fire shortly after arriving on the scene. Firemen had reached the blaze within minutes of receiving the call, but the fire had already engulfed the house and had crossed over to the homes on either side. Few natural fires spread that quickly, and neighbors told firemen they heard what sounded like explosions. Today, investigators have a suspect, but he has not been arrested.
The primary cause for suspicion is the story that we're getting from several sources that a man, threatened to burn this particular building down not too long ago. He also was involved in a fairly complicated domestic dispute, so that his motive in setting this fire would be what we catalog as spite revenge. That is, someone simply uses the fire as a weapon or a tool to get back at someone or strike back at someone.
Cooksey says so far this year there have been 4, perhaps 5 fire deaths caused by arson. That makes arson the #1 fire-related killer. This time, 1 house was destroyed. No one was injured. They were lucky. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4 in northwest Oklahoma City.
Stopped right there and we jumped out of the car with the foot. We ran. I told my woman to run and go into a room. I ran. The actual shooting took place in the okay. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, I know. Oh, wait.
Go ahead and give me the